Welcome to another episode of Debating is for Life. I am your host, Coach Tamer, and with us today, multi-talented Renaissance man in training, Emile Watanabe. Welcome, Emile.
Hi, Tamer. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to this.
So you've caught a couple of the episodes, I'm taking it?
Oh, absolutely. Come on. It's my weekly indulgence.
Oh, that's nice. I like to hear that. So do you have any concerns about today's episode, or are you a little nervous of butterflies?
Little butterflies, but ready to show you up.
Oh man. Okay,
Let's
now
do it.
I'm nervous. Um, all right. Well, I want to go back to our title page for a second and talk about your moniker. Listen, I had a hard time figuring out what to call you because I could call you lots of things. One of the things that came to mind was old soul, because whenever I talk to you, I feel like you're an old soul. Have you heard that before?
I think my parents have said that a while back in the past, but it's a huge compliment. Thank you, Tamer.
Yeah. Well, it's very rare. Like, some people are just precocious and they just seem ahead of their years. They seem older, but in a young person's body. And anyway, I could have called you old soul, but another thing I was floating around was Renaissance man in training. Do you know what a
That's
Renaissance
nice.
man is?
Oh yeah. He's everywhere. Got all the little bits of everything, right? Something like
Well, a
that.
lot of everything. Like a Renaissance man kind of works hard to balance themselves out in all the disciplines. They love sports, they love music, they love scholarly things. So a
Mm.
Renaissance man is just a well-rounded kind of, you're like the world's most interesting man kind of figure. And you're a good candidate for that. But I went with repatriated expat. When you look, if people don't know this word
Mhm.
expat or expatriate, we're not talking about like USA. We're not talking about patriots like that,
Yep.
but we're talking about patria. I guess it's a Latin word which means homeland, or my
Mhm.
patria, my fatherland. And you are a repatriated expat. So that means you were out somewhere outside of your homeland, living your life, and now you're back in your homeland. And so, where were you an expat? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised here in Canada, in Toronto, and my parents left when I was 9, and we did a sabbatical around the world. I think it was 17 countries in 13 months or something like that, and ended up forming a home base in Bangkok, Thailand, where I had most of my teenage formative years. Went to a French international high school, and I mean, the life of an expat in Southeast Asia, right? And only
So a
moved back
life
recently.
is this what it looks like, the life for an expat? Like you're walking around with elephants in the background, because I know
Yeah.
Thailand is just a land of natural beauty and diversity, and so you have the countryside, which is amazing, and then the city life, which is amazing. So like I imagine this guy in the pink shirt here is another expat. Did you form like a community with all the expats in Thailand?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the stark contrast in Thailand between like this super developed progressive city like Bangkok, right? Like it's the hub for ASEAN, for business, for Southeast Asia. And you've got, I mean, gold-plated malls and luxury shopping, and the wealth is very present and clear. And yet, an hour outside of Bangkok, you have this like gorgeous countryside, farmlands. It's called Land of Smiles for a reason, right? Everyone's super lovely and warm, and as you can see in the left picture there, absolutely, this is the north of Thailand near Chiang Mai at an elephant sanctuary
Uh-huh.
called Elephant Nature Park, and indeed, the man in the pink shirt is an expat. His name is Derek. He's a co-owner of that.
Hi,
Um,
Derek. I presume he'll
hi,
watch this
Derek.
episode.
Yeah, conservation park, and so I loved that. Quite frankly, I love that contrast. You go to school
Yeah.
and you have this day to day just like you would in North America, and all the creature comforts of home, and then for a break, you get a weekend off. Oh, let's go take a little scooter in the countryside, see some
Yeah.
mountains, look at some plantations.
Well, that's you
Fantastic.
grew up in such an interesting way. I kind of relate because I grew up a little bit in Europe, in Austria. I spent a couple of years when I was a kid growing, so I know how it is to grow up outside of Canada. But like your parents chose one of the most fascinating places in the world to raise their children, and so you
Agreed.
ended up just soaking in the culture and obviously you develop as a person in a different way than somebody who'd grow up in Toronto or in a small town in Canada. I mean, you've been doing so many things, and obviously, and you have these amazing parents. Your dad comes to mind. He's such an adventurous guy. He's so full of life, and I know your mom is too. And you guys seem to be doing nonstop exciting things like scuba diving and
Mm.
motorcycle riding. And tell me what it was like to kind of just live that adventurous life, and then how did it affect you as a person, and how do you see yourself different now than the kind of garden variety Canadian?
hmm Well, first of all, my parents are fantastic people. All these experiences, I owe it to them. Um, the opportunities they've given me just by virtue of living there, but also, their confidence in me and like I was driving a motorcycle, I think at 15, because it's when you can get your license in Thailand. And they trusted me. You drive to school, you drive to a friend's house. It's unheard of, right? For by North American standards. So
Yeah, yeah.
their sense of adventure and their sense of wanting to discover the unknown, let's say, absolutely has fueled me and has instilled in me a similar passion. I would say the biggest thing that I took away from living in Thailand was just perspective. It's that like otherworldly, maybe not quite otherworldly, let's say a larger perspective on a bigger picture, right? So um, in my day to day, there's always more, and I try not to concern myself with trivial matters because I've had the opportunity to see so much, and I know that there's so much more out there, and
Yeah.
it does instill a certain sense of gratitude in you. And so like whatever opportunities that I come across these days, it's all just gratitude. Thanks to those experiences, they've served me so well in my confidence and in my getting other opportunities, for
Yeah.
example, and my relationships with people just by
Yeah.
intermingling with different cultures and different backgrounds and hearing
Absolutely. I think
stories.
you
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. That's from my experience, it was the same.
Mhm.
When you go traveling, when you do a lot of traveling when you're young, it expands your horizons. You get to meet different thinking people, you get to see how other people do it. And so that when you get back home, your kind of tapestry or your your foundation is so strong that you can handle different people, right? And a lot of people at home kind of become creatures of habit
Mm.
because they're only comfortable with their reality and their world. And when something happens outside of their own experience, it's uncomfortable. But when you're a world traveler, you can handle anything that life throws at you. You have this amazing brother as well, right here. His name is Felix
Yeah,
or
handsome
Filou.
gentleman.
Handsome. Well, the whole family is handsome. Let's face it. Come on, you guys won the gene lottery, but he's making a name for himself in the bodybuilding world that I found out recently. Isn't that? Tell us a little bit about your brother.
He is. Oh, he's an up and coming star, this kid. So still living in Thailand, finishing the rigorous IB program and absolutely killing it. He's
Good.
coming to Toronto only in September now for university.
Oh wow.
And I mean, he is absolutely like living the life, right? He's taking it all in, enjoying it. He's got his big motorcycle at 17, drives to school, goes out on the weekends with friends, travels around Thailand. He's a huge fitness enthusiast.
Wow. Yeah.
His mindset, I think, is the biggest thing going for him. He's always pushing himself, always trying to do better and growing as a person, and that's reflected in his diligence for his fitness, but also it's shaped his diet and his mindset and his relationships with people. So
It's
he's
so nice
training to
to
be
hear
a
a young person speaking highly of their sibling because as a teacher, I get a lot of sibling rivalry
mm,
anecdotes, and I'm sure you have some of your own, but I know one thing that characterizes your entire family is that you guys are like uber supportive of each other. It's a beautiful quality. You guys are a real family. And I know I can speak on this because this gentleman over here, who was also on my podcast, that's your
Oh
uncle,
yes.
James Watanabe, and is one of my best friends in life. So I've been kind of
Mm.
tied to your family for a long, long time, and even tied to you in a sense. And we've run into each other on different occasions, and they've always been really great highlights. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But I
Absolutely.
just want to say, um, James Watanabe, my great friend, and your philosophy about gratitude and
Mm.
living in the moment, and unconditional love, it all sounds very much like this person.
Ah, there it
Very
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Betsy. And so Betsy
Betsy.
is your grandmother,
Hmm.
James's mother, Anthony's mother, and my spiritual mentor. And a lot of the way you speak is kind of channeling her wisdom, and I would say she's a holistic life coach, guide, a
Yep.
spiritual mentor. But you were blessed to have a grandmother like this. So tell me a little bit about kind of her influence on you, yeah, throughout your life.
I think I'd be lying if I said she wasn't one of my biggest inspirations as far as mentality goes, right? As you said, she's a guide, she's a mentor, and what's nice about it is with me as her grandson, it wasn't like she was trying to be a mentor, like it wasn't like in an office with a coach and you should do this and you should do that. It was just by virtue of the person she was and the actions that she took. She would always go out of her way to help you, to make you feel good. Or I remember when I was maybe 6 or 7, I'd get sick and she was there, and she was comforting me, or she was telling me stories. And she was always like, nothing mattered more than my health to her, or my well-being to her, and she would go to great lengths to preserve
The
that.
thing is,
and
though,
and
Emile, I know this episode is about you, but I need to talk
mhm,
about Betsy. She's such an amazing person.
she
Um,
is.
yeah, I know it's true. Like a lot of mothers are there for their family, and they put their family first, and they show up for their family.
Yep.
But this is a woman who shows up for everybody, not just her family. Like she put that same presence, look in the eyes, and the whole world melts away when she looks in your eyes. And she
100%.
puts
Wow.
her entire focus on you, no matter who's in front of her.
Hmm.
And so, you know, it's an amazing foundation for your family, right? And so it's no surprise to me that your family is so wonderful and so caring and so together and so supportive of each other, because look at who's at the root, right?
Hmm.
And I don't want to also like underplay your grandfather. I'm sure he had a lot to do with your family's story as well.
I think you said that perfectly, Tamara. She really is the roots. And the person that you love, and my Uncle James and my dad, and it's extended down to me. We all draw that mindset from her, 100%. That
Yeah.
mentality and that love and caring for each other and for others. But you're absolutely right in saying that she focuses on you, no matter who you are, whether you were a client of hers or a
Yeah.
friend or a friend of a
Yeah.
friend, even.
Yeah.
It was just this limitless love that she would share, and I think that's really, really special.
And
I'd
the thing
be
is, and I
hard-pressed to find
also
someone
I
else.
also know that about her, that she does have kind of a religious foundation. She's a Christian
Mhm.
at heart, a true Christian at heart. But anytime I've ever spoken to her, she never ever kind of overplayed that aspect.
Mhm.
She always respects that. Maybe I'm not a Christian, but let's talk about the real stuff, the stuff that's important to us all. So
Yep.
she's very, very wise, and I know I've benefited from it, and all the people that I know that see her, um, sort of adopt that same philosophy of life that you have. So
Mhm.
that's another way that we're connected. But here's another way, Emil. You and I have a musical
Yeah.
history together. I don't know if I'm going to
Wow.
make this a little bit smaller so that we can see the picture. Give me a sec. Oh, there.
Look at that,
Yep,
eh?
I know. You and
Wow.
I, one of the main, I guess, memories I have with you when you were really young is going to this concert, for 5440, which was James and my first concert ever when we were kids at 16. And we took you guys, I don't know if it was your first concert, but I think it was Gabriel's first concert. And
It was my first, yeah.
your first too. So it's like
Yeah.
all of our first concert, 5440, and there we were. And something special happened that day. Can you talk about that?
Oh, what a special day. Even I remember that to this day. It was my first concert with Gabriel as well. Got those awesome t-shirts going.
Yeah.
And you guys had this banner that you had handmade back when you were teenagers, right? And we brought it to that concert at an open air stadium up in, I think it was Niagara on the Lake.
Yeah.
And Neil Osborne, lead singer of 5440, he recognized the banner and brought your son Gabriel and myself up on stage to hold that banner for the whole crowd to see as like little tykes, right? We're bumping our heads and our feet are going, and it was just like, what is happening, right? Completely
Yeah.
surreal.
Yeah. They
You're talking
sang
with
one
the
of my
band.
favorite songs to you guys um as you held the banner. And then after that, they got all excited and said, "What the hell? Anyone can come up on stage." And the whole audience stormed the stage. And I remember singing "I Go Blind" arm in arm with Neil Osborne in the same microphone, harmonizing with him. It was a
Wow,
dream. And I looked over and there,
amazing.
and then you guys were dancing with the ladies on stage. It was just dreamy. And I
It
remember
really
even at the end
was.
of that night, as we were leaving the concert, I forget what the occasion was, but fireworks were going off, lighting up the sky. And it really did seem just like a magical moment. And then, anyway, we saw you doing this and we realized we have a special case on our hand.
I got the bug right then and there, eh? That was it.
Truly had a free spirit.
There you go.
Woo! Just recently, we went back and revisited 5440 with our banner at the Horseshoe Tavern. And there we are, like about 16 years later.
Full
And once
circle
again,
moment, man.
once again,
Wow.
Neil Osborne recognized the banner. Everybody go to YouTube, to my YouTube channel, and go check out the videos. It's really exciting. But so we have this musical connection. And it's no wonder
Absolutely.
that you and Gabriel both kind of took to music as you were growing up, right? And you're a musician in your own right, and you and your father play gigs in Thailand. And
Mhm.
so tell us about your musical career.
Well, I mean, it's been in my family, right? Beyond this as well, my uncle James is a great guitarist, my father as well, and their uncle before them, Uncle Terry,
Terry,
great Uncle
yeah,
Terry to me, is an amazing musician. Is still going, and he's into his 80s, still playing gigs at the local senior center, right? The Stones and the
yeah,
Blues and all
yeah,
that. And so I think it totally inspired me to pick up the guitar, learn a few songs. Started with my where my dad started with, like I want to say Canadiana, country, little folk, something like that.
yeah.
And then you progress as a musician, and it thankfully with my dad again being so supportive, we ended up forming something of a band together in my later years of high school.
Oh yeah,
We called it Soma 2.0 after their high school or university band, my Uncle James and my dad, back here in Toronto, as like a
nice.
second generation of that band. And we would play
Oh, nice.
dive bars or open mics or things like that in Thailand. And the occasional large Canada Day barbecue for the embassy. Perks of my mother working there as the executive director. So that was amazing as an
So is
experience
it
to have.
possible with all of these contacts that you've made in kind of high up places in Thailand over the years, is it possible that you're going to get educated here and then find a really good job over there through these contacts?
Very possible, Tamer. Very
Wow.
honestly, 2 Canadian winters in, and I'm missing Thailand already. So
Oh, dude.
it might
I
end
bet,
up,
yeah, the winter is the right time to miss Thailand over
yeah,
here. Oh
yeah,
my
no,
goodness. Well, speaking of winter, your academic pursuits have led you to some amazing different places, including this place over here. Can you tell us what's going on in this picture? You look like you're on
absolutely.
planet Mars over here.
So this was my past summer expedition in the Canadian Arctic with Arctic Kingdom Polar Expeditions.
Wow.
Um, this is the Devon Island Glacier, which is largest uninhabited island in the world. It's
Uninhabited. What does that mean?
yeah,
Like no, nothing is there?
nothing. It's just
Not
rocks
even
and
insects
ice.
or nothing like a little
Well, there's wildlife,
moss?
but uninhabited is
Oh,
in there are no human populations living there to
okay.
this day, and it's a massive island. right? And so we took a helicopter up to the top of this mountain here to overlook the glacier with our guests, which happened to be Mexican media moguls from Mexico City. And we had gorgeous camps for, I was there for 39 days, camping on frozen sea ice that was, like
But
two
what was the whole
meters.
purpose of this expedition? Like, what were you doing there? It was a paid job, I
It
understood.
was. It was. Yeah, this was for tourism. I was part of the team that facilitated that expedition for
Oh,
guests to come see the Arctic, to come see polar bears and narwhals and um, Arctic wildlife and even just the landscape, like this gorgeous
so like, did
iceberg
you guys
here.
actually see polar bears or just their tracks, like
We
here?
did. We did. Yeah, with
So what
from
happens
camp
when a
with
polar bear comes
binoculars and
along? Like, do you guys all like, does somebody with a gun protect everybody, or how does that work?
I mean, of course, the goal is not to harm the wildlife, right? We're in their land. Uh, but there of course there's safety precautions as staff as well. We got training on first aid and gun safety and all that, but we never had any issues, and the company has never had any issues like that. Generally, we're too loud because it's a large camp with 40
Oh
something
yeah,
people.
yeah.
That the wildlife is too scared to approach, which is a good thing for everyone. We don't want to
Right,
disrupt
right,
them.
right, right, right. Wow,
So
what an exciting, amazing way to spend your summer. So like most kids are out there, working their restaurant gigs or whatever they're doing in Toronto, and here you are visiting the Arctic. Is it the Arctic?
it is. Oh, absolutely. It's in the Arctic
An
Circle, 24-hour
Arctic
daylight and everything.
expedition. Incredible. And so did you have any issues with coldness, or did obviously you must have been, prepared for that.
I was.
Okay.
The company was kind enough to lend us some massive jackets. Like, I mean, massive with the pants and the boots and everything. So,
Yeah.
except when we had a storm or something, or you're on the snowmobile going who knows how fast, we were pretty warm, I would say. The kitchen was heated. I worked a lot in with the chefs, and there's always fire going or something like that. Something's
Those
on the stove.
Mexican tourists must have been really impressed. Like, there couldn't be anything further from Mexico than this, you know. But
You're
how much
very
does it
right.
cost? Like, if I wanted to do an expedition like this as a tourist, what would that cost me?
So as a tourist for I think it's like 8 days, something like $20,000 Canadian per person. It is
Wow,
a very pricey. Everything to
incredible.
get up there, to set up the camp, even flights up there are expensive because it's so remote, right? So the whole
But it must be
logistics
life
of it.
altering. Like, after that experience, did your life change, or was it just sort of another memory for you?
No, I cannot call it another memory. Absolutely not. It was absolutely life changing. I think it was so special to be able to see that with my eyes, right?
Yeah,
As someone who loves nature and science and conservation, just to be there and to wake up looking at that huge glacier, for example, that's been there for
yeah.
the last 10,000 years since the last ice age. I mean, it was absolutely magical. Every day felt like a dream, and couldn't believe I was getting paid to be there.
What are you taking in at U of T right now?
I'm double majoring in ecology and evolutionary biology and conservation biology and biodiversity. So
So
think
you're
like
so
macro science, less about cells and more about species and ecosystems and their interactions and how that all functions.
amazing, amazing. Okay, well, I think we got to know you a little bit better now. And are you ready for the first activity of the day?
Bring it on, Tamer.